At 3:18 a.m., the radar feed blinked, and a ship went dark. No witnesses, just a heat spike in space and 6 minutes of silence over the South China Sea. We're breaking down the silent strike, a low-flying projectile that skimmed the water, then vanished as regional sensors blacked out. Was this a land-based shot from beyond 1,000 kilometers, and why did layered defenses miss it? Stay for the telemetry breadcrumbs, the EW fingerprints, and what this means for any fleet that thinks distance equals safety. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. Costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. One ship drops off tracking. 6 minutes of sensor silence. Something knifed through the net, and every layer watched nothing. At 3:18, a high-speed trace scratched the lower edge of the scope, right where waves and wind clutter live. The return hugged the surface, then fell away as a cargo hull near Hainan slipped off the plot like someone pulled the plug. Seconds later, a faint infrared bloom appeared in space-based feeds, not bright enough to scream strike, but hot enough to flag an event. Different sensors, same minute, same line of bearing. This should have been handled by depth in defense. Over-the-horizon radar should have cued the sector.
Ukraine is claiming its forces have captured 2 Chinese nationals fighting as part of the Russian army. President Zelensky has said that they had ID and bank cards on them when they were captured in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. Russia had used thousands of North Korean troops to try to push Ukrainian forces out of the Kursk region. And he added that we have information indicating that the number of such Chinese citizens fighting in the occupiers' units is much higher than 2. Those were his words, and he's instructed Ukraine's foreign minister to contact Beijing.
Chinese citizens are fighting for Russian forces in eastern Ukraine.
Shipborne AESA should have sharpened the return. Airborne pickets should have filled gaps. Satellite tasking should have tightened the noose. Instead, everything dimmed in sync. Not broken, just out of step. Tracks lost timestamps. Cues lagged. Operators stared at clean screens that should have been busy. See skimming profiles do that to you. A missile riding a few meters above the water hides under the radar horizon, and the curvature of the Earth cuts your look range to the bone. At low altitude, the radar beam sees a field of moving glitter, whitecaps, spray, thermal layers. So the target must be pulled out of noise, not found in empty sky. That costs time. Every extra second burned in processing is another second of approach. By the time the arc of coverage lifts the target, the geometry gives you a short, harsh window. Now add electronic warfare. Deceptive jamming dresses noise up to look like valid tracks, then lets it fade to train your filters in the wrong direction. GPS denial doesn't blind a radar, but it does fracture navigation solutions and timing sources, which matters when your network lives on precise clocks. Comms desync is the quiet killer.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has acknowledged that China, Moscow's most important ally, has questions and concerns about the war in Ukraine.
Vladimir Putin is in Samarkand to strengthen ties with his regional partners. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization of Eurasian nations has grown in significance for Russia.
We highly value the balanced position of our Chinese friends when it comes to the Ukraine crisis. We understand your questions and concern about this. During today's meeting, we will of course explain our position.
Links still pass data, but stamps slip by a hair, and fused tracks drift out of tolerance. The humans trust the fusion. The fusion trusts time. Nudge the clock, and operators are working last minute's war on this minute's sky. Under normal conditions, maritime domain awareness runs like a mesh. Radars build range and bearing. AIS feeds label hulls that want to be seen. Yo/IR puts eyes on shapes. Space sensors confirm the heat and course. Fusion logic stitches it together with tight timing rules so that a blip stays the same object across different fields of view. Break the timing agreement even without losing raw data, and you create an informational void. The screen shows parts. The brain sees no whole. Open channels lit up after the event in ways that point to stress in the net. Traffic on technical forums spiked around synchronization topics. Audit logs where visible, flagged clock source anomalies. Firmware pushes rolled out fast to ship systems with notes tied to timekeeping and link integrity. You don't push those configs at speed unless you suspect the clocks were your single point of failure.
As I say, there's a lot we don't know. We don't know if they are indeed Chinese, whether they're fighting in Ukraine as mercenaries. There are thousands of mercenaries fighting in this war. But if you are President Zelensky, you try to portray the expanding geopolitical footprint of this war to try and provoke the West into a deeper response to Russia, and Western officials have always been fearful of its technology making its way into the missiles and military technology used to fight against Ukrainian troops or to terrorize Ukrainian cities.
The range question makes it worse. If the launch sat beyond 1,000 kilometers, you're not fighting a long warning chain. You're fighting the edge. Detection happens late because the target rides low and fast. Engagement windows shrink from minutes to a thin slice of seconds at the moment the target climbs just high enough to be seen. React, or it crosses the line before your battery chief can lock a solution. Viewed that way, the loss wasn't about a blind radar or a careless watch. It was about cadence. A sea skimmer designed to stay below the horizon gate. An EW package that spread doubt across timing sources instead of screaming in the RF band.
Western sanctions on Moscow have pushed China and Russia closer together economically. Chinese products have replaced Western ones in Russia, while China is Russia's biggest oil customer. As their leaders talk in Uzbekistan, China and Russia are carrying out joint military exercises near the Pacific coast.
So what are China's questions and concerns about Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
Fusion logic that turned brittle under skewed clocks. In that narrow 318 window, the network wasn't deaf. It was out of rhythm. And when the music comes back late, the ship is already gone. So, if timing can be turned into a weapon, your defense has to treat silence as part of the kill chain. Harden the clock. Cross-check the links. Train crews to fight when the net goes smooth and quiet, because the next clean screen may be the last warning you get. Distance is no armor now. Ships live or die by the data chain, clean fusion, tight clocks, hardened links. If the network stutters, the shot lands before you even know you're in a fight. So what do you fix first? Do you push for longer eyes, persistent over-the-horizon and high-altitude pickets? Do you stack EW countermeasures, resilient timing, anti-spoof smart filters? Or do you tear into fusion logic, clock guards, cross-checks, human drills for quiet screens? Comment your choice below and subscribe if you want more hard analysis, not hype. The next silent strike won't announce itself.